We continue our post-election coverage now with more from Tuesday night. John Katko will be Central New York's new congressman. He beat Dan Maffei on Tuesday night in a race that saw some very negative campaign ads. Joining me now, the Congressman-elect, John Katko. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here again.
We were here, your first interview right after you announced, and I'm glad to have you back. How's it feel?
Feels great. Feels great. A lot to do, though, in a short period of time, that's for sure.
I imagine your phone is blowing up.
It's hard to imagine how many new friends I have, yeah. It's been blowing up like crazy, yes.
How many phone calls do you think you got?
I've received over 300 texts and 100 emails and at least 50 to 75 phone messages in the first 24 hours. And I returned them all, but it's tiring just trying to keep up with it.
Do you ever look at the phone and think, how does this person even have my number?
More than once, yes.
Well, John Boehner was in Washington today. He talked to the reporters. He said, we're going to do Keystone Pipeline. We're going to make some changes to Obamacare. Will you support those things?
Well, so far, the two things you mentioned, absolutely. When I hear we're going to repeal Obamacare, I'm not going to take part in that.
You tune out.
We need to fix Obamacare. We got to end the rhetoric and start getting things done. And I think the Keystone Pipeline is a very good idea.
What's the biggest thing that needs to be fixed about health care right now? Do you have one issue?
One issue is the costs. I mean, the cost is going up, and I think in concomitant with that is the two major taxes in Obamacare are killing small and mid-sized businesses. And we got to work on that too.
During the campaign, you brought this up several times as reporters would ask you about negative campaigning, all this outside money that came in, and you would say a couple of times I heard, you know, I was a federal prosecutor, I dealt with the boot camp gang, my family received death threats. And every time I heard that, I thought, I want to know more about that. That must have been a rotten time, having people threaten the family.
Yeah, well, you know, it's part of the business, unfortunately, and that my wife and I always made the conscious decision to say, you know, if we give up and stop doing this, and you stop chasing these bad guys, then they win. And
how would the death threats come?
I don't want to get into all the details because there's security issues that still linger out there that I don't want to get into.
Yeah. What did you learn about politics in America by running in this race?
Well, you know, you hear a lot about the negativity and the ads and everything, but you know, one thing I was heartened by is that a lot of people really care. A lot more people care about the process than you imagine, and there's a lot more people involved and active and really give a darn. And that's very heartening to me because you hear often the negative side of politics, which is understandable, but a lot more people are participating in it and dedicating their time, and they really do seem to care.
What do you say to the people who voted for Dan Maffei, who didn't vote for you? What do you say to them? What's the message that Congressman John Katko will have for those people?
It's time to put the election in the rearview mirror. It's time to work together, and that's what it's all about. I can extend a hand to everybody because we got to work together, not just here in this district, but down in Washington. I had a great conversation today with Senator Gillibrand, and that was, like I said I was going to, and she was gracious, she was nice, and it just seems like somebody I can work with, and we had a great conversation. That's what we got to be doing going forward.
On election night, you said you'd reach out to Senator Gillibrand and to Senator Schumer. Have you talked with Senator Schumer yet?
No, I reached out to both of them the next day, and Gillibrand got back to me today. I'm sure Chuck is a little busy these days, but he'll get back to me in due time, and we'll talk for sure.
One of the issues that I would hear time and time again, particularly from some women who were planning to cast a vote in the race, was about the issue of abortion, and it seemed that some of the commercials resonated with them. Some of the anti-John Katko commercials resonated with them. Can you just explain where your position comes from on that issue?
Oh, sure. I'm pro-life, and it's kind of consistent with my the Catholic faith. I say kind of because I accept in instances of rape, incest, or the life of the mother, but that's my personal belief. And let's face it, Roe v. Wade's been on the books for over 40 years now, and the Congress is not going to change it, and that's for sure.
You mentioned your Catholic faith. What do you think of the Pope?
He's great. I like him a lot.
His messages are resonating with some people who would not have been likely to vote for you, I would imagine.
Right.
And I'm just curious what you think of what he's been saying.
I think softening the tone is what he needs to do. I think it's a really good thing. I really do.
What did you learn about Dan Maffei being with him? You were with him a lot during that last week of many debates. They all happened in that last week.
He's a little more serious than I am. I tend to be goofing around a little bit more, but he's a little more serious. He's had his game face on before the debates came on. I tend to be a little more loose, I guess.
When do you go to Washington?
Go to Washington next Wednesday. Yeah, and then we're going to go down there, and it's very intense training for about a week, and everything from you know, here's what you do as a congressman, what your office is going to look like and configuration, where it's going to be and everything. So it's a soup to nuts training period.
Let us know how it goes.
I'll be back again
Congressman-elect
anytime.
John Katko, thank you very much. We'll hold you to that.
Okay.
We'll be right back.